Welcome to another deep dive.
Mhm.
You know, um, today we're going to look at something a listener sent in, and it's a
Yeah.
little bit out there.
Mm.
We're talking about a Reddit post, and this one's from Ask Men Advice.
Oh, wow.
You know that corner of the internet where guys go to get
Uh,
advice from other guys?
yeah, those can be very interesting little rabbit holes to go down. They can be very insightful
Yeah,
in terms of like just getting a glimpse into how people are thinking and what they're grappling with.
exactly. And this time they're grappling with something pretty unique. Uh, a guy's girlfriend wants to see his butthole, and he's asking the internet for advice.
Oh my
What do
goodness.
you think about that?
I mean, it sounds funny on the surface, but I think it actually opens up a really interesting conversation about intimacy and body image and all those unwritten rules we have in a relationship.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
And what really got me was he mentioned in the post that he sees hers all the time.
Oh, interesting.
So right away, I'm thinking double standard. Why is it no big deal if he sees hers, but her seeing his is this huge dilemma?
Yeah, and I think it just speaks to a lot of the societal norms and expectations that we have around bodies, and particularly female bodies.
Hmm.
We send this message that women's bodies are more readily available for visual consumption, whereas men's bodies are considered more private or taboo.
Makes you think, huh?
Okay.
And the responses to this post are a wild ride. You've got some supportive ones like scrub that chocolate starfish
Yeah.
or give the people what they want.
Classic Reddit.
It is classic Reddit.
Yeah.
But then you've got the more cautious folks. Like one commenter just said, make sure it's clean and don't fart.
Very practical.
They know, right? It's like, okay, thanks for the tip.
But I think it is interesting because it highlights that there is a logistical aspect to this, right?
Yeah.
Any intimate act has some practical considerations.
Yeah, and you just got to be prepared.
Exactly. And then you juxtapose that with the humor, and I think it speaks to this tension that people have around sensitive topics online. Like, do we approach it with lightheartedness, or do we actually try to give genuine advice? And you see
Yeah.
this play out in the comments.
Totally. And then there were some surprisingly romantic responses.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like someone suggested a whole spa day with massages,
Wow.
setting the scene, making it this sensual experience.
That escalated quickly.
I know, right?
But it's fascinating because it shows that even in these anonymous spaces, people are looking for connection and ways to enhance their relationships.
Yeah, they're looking for something real. And then there's also a more introspective side to some of the responses
Mm-hmm.
where commenters were encouraging the guy to really think about why he's uncomfortable with this request.
Right.
Is it societal norms? Is it body image issues?
Mm.
Something else entirely.
That's where it gets really interesting for me because it's not just about answering the surface level question.
Right.
It's about prompting self-reflection.
Mm.
Like this guy is forced to confront his own beliefs and insecurities about this.
Maybe that's something we can all learn from.
Exactly.
I love these deep dives because we start with something that seems lighthearted,
Yeah,
but we end up uncovering these layers of complexity and insight.
totally.
This Ask Men Advice thread has given us so much to unpack already,
It really has.
and I can't wait to keep going.
Me too. It's kind of wild how much we can learn about social dynamics from just one Reddit post.
Isn't that the truth? And speaking of social dynamics, there's another layer to this that we haven't even touched on yet.
Okay.
The pegging jokes.
Oh, yes.
They kept coming up in this thread.
Right, right. The inevitable pegging jokes.
Yeah,
I mean, they're crude, but I actually think they reveal something interesting about how we as a society view power dynamics in relationships.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
So for our listeners who maybe aren't familiar with the term, can you explain what pegging is?
Sure. Pegging refers to a sexual act where a woman penetrates a man anally, typically using a strap-on dildo.
And I think the reason these jokes pop up in a thread like this is because it really challenges those traditional ideas of who's supposed to be the penetrator and who's supposed to be the receiver in a sexual encounter.
Exactly. It subverts those deeply ingrained gender roles and power structures, and I think for some people that can be really unsettling.
Yeah, it kind of throws everything we think we know out the window.
Right.
So even though these jokes are often made in a lighthearted way, they point to these deeper anxieties around masculinity and how sexual expression is evolving.
Yeah. And it's a great example of how humor can be used to both acknowledge and deflect from these uncomfortable topics. We laugh, but underneath that laughter, there's a whole lot of societal baggage being unpacked.
This whole conversation makes me think about something you mentioned earlier about double standards. And I'm curious, what are some of the historical or cultural factors that might explain why we perceive men's and women's bodies so differently?
That's a great question. Historically, women's bodies have often been viewed as objects to be looked at and controlled, whereas men's bodies have been associated with power and agency.
Interesting.
And this goes way back. Think about ancient Greek statues or Renaissance paintings. The male nude was celebrated as a symbol of strength and beauty, while the female nude was often portrayed in a more passive or objectified way.
Wow. I never thought about it like that.
But it's there.
So those perceptions from centuries ago are still influencing how we view bodies today.
Absolutely. Those ideas have seeped into our cultural consciousness,
Wow.
and they continue to shape our expectations around sexuality and body image.
So we've gone from a seemingly simple question about showing a girlfriend a butthole to a discussion of history, societal norms, and the psychology of humor.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is. It's like what started as this silly little thing has become this deep dive into like all these different facets of our culture.
It's a testament to the power of deep dives, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
We can start with a seemingly trivial topic and end up uncovering these profound insights about ourselves and the world around us.
Totally agree. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion,
Yeah.
revealing more and more complexity as we go. But I think we're getting close to the core of this onion, and I can't wait to see what other insights we uncover. As we've been going through this Ask Men Advice thread, it's made me think about the responses themselves and what they say about online communities in general.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating how these spaces can be so supportive and judgmental at the same time.
Hmm.
Like you'll have these really insightful comments, and then right next to it, you'll have something completely superficial or just meant to provoke a reaction.
It's like a microcosm of society itself,
Oh,
with all its complexities and contradictions.
yeah, and I think it raises the question of how do we actually navigate these spaces responsibly?
That is the question, isn't it?
Yeah, especially in the digital age.
Because it's not just about absorbing information anymore.
Right.
It's about critically evaluating it.
Exactly. We need to develop these media literacy skills and recognize that not everything we read online is accurate or unbiased.
And be mindful of how we contribute to these conversations.
Absolutely. Our words have power, even in the seemingly anonymous realm of the internet.
So much truth to that.
We have a responsibility to be respectful even when we disagree.
It's a good reminder that empathy and kindness should be at the forefront of our interactions, both online and offline.
I agree.
But I want to bring it back to this thread for a second.
Mhm.
What do you think our listener, the one who sent this in, should take away from all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway is the importance of open and honest communication in relationships. If something is making you uncomfortable, talk about it.
Right.
And be willing to listen to your partner's perspective as well.
That's such a simple but powerful piece of advice.
Yeah.
And it applies to so much more than just this situation.
Yeah, it's about creating that space where both partners feel safe and respected no matter what the topic is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in needing clarification or feeling unsure about something.
Right.
Healthy relationships are built on trust and understanding.
Exactly.
So what started as this seemingly silly Reddit post has led us to some pretty profound insights about relationships and societal norms, and even the nature of online communities.
It's kind of amazing what you can learn when you take a deep dive into something unexpected.
That's the beauty of curiosity, right?
Totally.
It allows us to see the world in new and surprising ways.
And on that note, we hope you'll continue exploring these topics with us.
Yeah, if you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to subscribe to Voices of the Soul wherever you get your podcasts.
And for even more thought-provoking content, you can head over to YouTube and subscribe to Shauna Pelage.
We release new videos every week covering a wide range of fascinating topics.
Yeah, we do.
And as always, we love hearing from you, so leave a comment, share your thoughts, and let us know what other deep dives you'd like to see in the future.
Until then, keep those minds curious and those conversations flowing.
And remember, even a question about a butthole can spark a journey of discovery.
Ha!
Stay curious out there.